rainforests, even if we believe they have nothing to do with our jobs, our businesses, and our daily lives. I also want to learn together with you the solutions to the climate crisis that are available to all of us in different countries and regions. My name is Pancho Campo, and my personal crusade is to show you, through the Planet Future documentaries, the impacts that climate change is having around the world. Because we cannot wait any longer. The time to act is now.
Got me upside down, spinning around you. I wanna taste the clouds, dance with the moon. Take a trip around your body. Boy, I love the way you got me. Sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming, Pancho. It's nice to meet you. My name's Taylor. I'm the winemaker here at Cedar Creek Estate Winery. We are one of the older wineries in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia and Canada. We're celebrating our 35th anniversary this year, so one of the original 10 wineries in the valley. We've come a long way, obviously, since the late 80s. There's a lot that's happened in the industry and made of a lot of advancements, but in general, we're still kind of the same winery we were back then. We're focused on North Okanagan, cool climate varieties, Pinot Noir predominantly, with some aromatic whites and Chardonnay sprinkled in as well.
Congratulations, because apart from your anniversary, I've been to a lot of wineries, and this one is impressive from the moment you walk in.
It is, yeah. It's a beautiful site. I mean, you can tell we've just undergone a big renovation. This hasn't been here for 35 years. This is all brand new. It took us about 3 years to get it all wrapped up, but really focused on luxury hospitality, trying to give people the best experiences that we can when they're on site here and make connections that way.
So why don't we tell our audience, since I explained you before, Planet Future, the documentary is about sustainability, the environment, climate change. First question is, have you noticed any changes in the climate, and have those changes affected you in any way or manner?
Yes, I would say undoubtedly. I think for us, there's several things happening that we can connect to climate change. First of all, you do see a trend upwards in our measured growing degree days, heat units in the valley, and how they're spread across the growing season as well. And that's causing changes in vine balance and fruit balance as well. So when we're trying to make our picking decisions, frequently we're ending up with more sugar in the fruit than we historically have had, and higher alcohols are becoming a problem, or a challenge, I guess. I would also say that our tannins, are ripening a little bit in a different spot than they historically would as well. So our phenological ripeness, flavor, and sugar maturity are changing. We're getting a different balance than we historically would see. So that is one thing that we're battling from the north to the south in the valley here. We're seeing a little bit of different pest pressure, as well as even in just the last few years, we've seen an increase in leafhopper pest pressure in the vineyards, which there is considerable talk about whether that is because we're not getting the cold winters we used to get, and so they're overwintering a lot easier than they historically have. And you hear about leafhopper issues further south along the west coast for sure.
What about extreme climatic episodes? Have you noticed changes in that pattern?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're sitting here early in 2022. We just had what everybody is calling the heat dome in 2021, which was, we were up to 49.5 degrees Celsius in some of our vineyards here in the Okanagan. We're in Canada, We're talking about some pretty hot weather for us. And that was tough. It puts a lot of pressure on the vines. It puts a lot of pressure on the people as well. There was some of our vineyards that we actually couldn't access for over a week because we were locked out of them because of how close the fires were.
Now the question is, two questions in one.
Okay.
What do you do to mitigate and adapt to climate change, and how do you keep your operations sustainable or environmentally friendly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, we're focused on both resilience and mitigation for sure. From a mitigation perspective, it's a lot of operations talk, like efficiency in terms of our mechanical systems, whether we're using natural gas or electric systems in the winery and in the buildings here, as a big part of our emissions are these stationary, like building emissions, right? So BC has a very clean energy grid. We're about 95% renewable because we're so focused on hydropower. So the winery, we're focused on using electrical versus natural gas as much as we can. Operationally, I'm doing a lot of things like going to lighter bottle weights. So we've completely cut out the really heavy bottles you see in some other places. Interesting things that you don't really think of as being, carbon intensive, I guess, but historically we've put all of our premium wines in a 6-pack carton. By switching to a 12-pack, we were able to eliminate about 1.5% of our carbon emissions for the business.
That's really interesting.
There's like these little incremental changes we've been able to make in terms of mitigation and trying to lower our emissions. And it's interesting work to do that as well, because you get to tweak your processes and try and find efficiencies that you wouldn't usually think about. In terms of resilience, I guess for me that mostly goes back to the vineyard. Like that's where we're mostly thinking about how we're going to be adapting to these changes over the next decades. I mean, I'm very, very aware that even if our emissions stop tomorrow, we're locked in for significant warming, right? We've got to be able to adapt. So we're thinking about site selection. Where are we purchasing land? Where are we planting? We're moving, even here at Cedar Creek on this property, we're moving further up the hillsides. We're now planting up to 600 meters of elevation, which is about 150, 200 meters higher than we've historically grown fruit here on this site. And we're wrapping around to the north side of the mountain as well. So northerly aspect, it's going to be much cooler there for now. And I think the wines are probably going to be relatively marginal for the next little bit. But my expectation is that if we have this conversation again in 20 years, that might be the better side of the vineyard, and the stuff that's established now, we might be moving out of that prime zone in terms of ripening and growing.
I see that even your building looks from the outside that you have taken into consideration sustainability. Big windows, a lot of natural materials. Did you have that into consideration when you planned this winery?
We did, yeah. We did use quite a bit of recycled materials. A lot of the finishes you see are pulled from old buildings that were scheduled for like what you can see behind us even, these walls and things, it's all reused material. Natural light obviously was a big focus for us as well. It creates a nicer atmosphere, but it also creates a more efficient building as well. And like I said, if we're thinking about reducing our natural gas use and that kind of thing, these are the things we need to think about. So it was a part of the process to work through all of that for all of these buildings as well. The winery is built into the hillside. So for a winery, temperature control obviously is very important. And we don't even really need to regulate the temperature inside the winery. We have earth that does that for us. So that's a huge one-up for us as well.
What about water resources, hydric resources? Do you have any strategy different from other wineries?
Yeah, we're working on that. The Okanagan historically has had access to a lot of water. Obviously, you can see these lakes. We are now on city water, so we were on lake water. We moved over to city water, and because of that, there has been a focus on reducing water used. I've worked in Australia and New Zealand, and that was some of my formative work was down there. And I was horrified at the amount of water we were using here when I started here. So, okay guys, stop hosing the floors down. Let's use squeegees. Let's recycle water when we're washing tanks. I've got a design for a water recapture system for our barrel washing as well, because that's a huge water use. So, it's pretty scary when you look at the liters of water used per liter of wine produced. From what I can see, looking at water consumption over the years, we've been able to cut our water use by about 20% since I started here. So a long way to go because we weren't overly efficient when we started. But once again, it's not hard stuff. It's just stuff you have to think about every day and make sure that everybody's on board.
What wine do we have here?
This is a Riesling. So this is a Riesling from our vineyard, which is just out about 50 meters this way. It's a 30-year-old block of Riesling, so one of our original vineyard plantings. We are in a cool spot here, so there's lots of acidity in these wines. Really, really kind of precise and linear. citrus, mineral kind of cues are what we're thinking about when we're trying this wine.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So where is the future of your winery when it comes to sustainability, environmental? Do you have any projects, any strategies?
We have a lot of projects, yeah. Myself and the viticulturist who I work with really closely have kind of a overall property strategy to try and close loops. We don't want inputs and outputs necessarily. We want more of a cyclical operation here on property. So one of the first things we did was a compost program for the whole site. So everybody collects all their food waste. Now, if you got lunch that you didn't eat, the restaurant has food that the customer didn't take, or their waste from their kitchen, everything gets collected, taken up top. We've got chickens, so we're feeding the chickens with some of it, composting the other parts of it. And it's grown a lot from there. We're verging on some biodynamic practices now, and we've come to that through a focus on soil health. And that's taken us to regenerative farming as well. So we're a registered regenerative farm now as of last year. No-till as of this coming season. We've decided to move away from that because we understand we're killing a lot of the life in the soil when we open the soils up. And we also think, living soils are going to be able to pull a lot of carbon out of the atmosphere over time. And that's a good way for us to try and balance our impacts in other places. So I guess, regenerative farming, going beyond organic. We are certified organic here on site, and all of the wines we produce now are certified organic, but we want to continue to push the boundaries there. And I see organic as a small part of kind of the umbrella of sustainability. And I actually see global warming, climate change, greenhouse gases as probably a bigger fish to fry than organics even is as a overarching issue. Obviously, we were drawn to organics because it's easy to see the impact right in front of you, and that's much harder with climate change, obviously. But you can't really deny that that's going to be the issue of our time. So,
as I told you before, Plan the Future is about showing people the impacts of climate change, showing the audience how important it is that we care about places that maybe have no relationship to us, but also is to show people that are doing things right like you guys are doing. So I want to thank you for your hospitality and congratulations.
Thank you, Pancho. Thank you for coming.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Got me upside down, spinning around you. I wanna taste the clouds, dance with the moon. Take a trip around your body. Boy, I like the way you got me. Starry-eyed, got me starry-eyed. Losing all my focus, I can't even control it. You know.
So, can luxury products and sustainability intersect? Helping us to understand this is a moderator for this session on that same subject, Jane Anson. She's the author of Inside Bordeaux and the founder of JaneAnson.com, who's lived in Bordeaux for almost 20 years, specializing on the wines of that historic region. She's also authored a book about organic and biodynamic wines from around the world entitled Wine Revolution. And with this intersects her interests by often championing Bordeaux's vintners, working to elevate their environmental credentials.
For more than 30 years, Balzac Communications and Marketing has been a leader in wine and spirits marketing and public relations. Our mission is simple: to deliver tailored solutions for clients with values that align with our own. We guide our clients through the process of achieving their vision and transforming their business through sustainable growth, teamwork, transparency, and inclusivity. Sustainability is one of our core values, which is why we are honored to be a partner in Green Wine Future. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at contact@balzac.com to book a free consultation. For more than 30 years, Balzac Communications and Marketing has been a leader in wine and spirits marketing and public relations. Our mission is simple: to deliver tailored solutions for clients with values that align with our own. We guide our clients through the process of achieving their vision and transforming their business through sustainable growth, teamwork, transparency, and inclusivity. Sustainability is one of our core values, which is why we are honored to be a partner in Green Wine Future. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at contact@balzac.com to book a free consult.
Jane Anson, and I am super excited to be tasting here with Diane Verde Nieto, who is the founder of Positive Luxury, which really brings together a lot of the things that we're discussing today about the intersection between luxury brands, luxury wine, and being serious about environmental concerns and trying to understand how they work within luxury brands. That is what you have made your, your career out of in this brand. So what I'd love to speak to you about, could you give us some context? How have you seen luxury brands moving into this space? What works, what doesn't work, what's authentic, what isn't? How have you seen this space evolving?
Thank you very much for your question, and thank you very much for inviting me to be here today with you all. I mean, sustainability has been one of those big topics that perhaps in the last, I would say, 5 years has taken momentum, and also in the last maybe 3 years has accelerated to the speed of light, specifically just after COVID. So COVID, what has done to us is actually been a great, it has been the greatest pause, because it has given us the opportunity to reflect and to actually observe what is our impact to the natural world. And when we're talking in a category like wines, which is so close to the soil and is so fragile because it's very much climate dependent, what we have seen is that most winemakers, spirit makers, has actually started paying very much attention to how sustainability will affect their business, not just affects the business today. And what I mean by this is climate change is a reality that perhaps you're not seeing today in terms of heating up the earth at a magnitude that actually will damage crops. Of course, we have droughts and so on, but not in a consistent way. What we are going to see is how the 2 degrees temperature will affect crops. And I'm talking about wine as part of those monocrops. I will affect this over time. So we have seen first and foremost an investment from winemakers specifically into areas that are higher latitude, and also the birth of a lot of winemakers in regions that perhaps are not traditionally known as winemaking regions, like Kent, like Salta in Argentina. Before Mendoza was the celebrity region. Now Salta, which is slightly higher, especially on Valles Calchaquíes, which is slightly even higher region. We've seen China, obviously, Scandinavia. And so we are seeing all of these little gems that actually are coming through and will become perhaps those celebrity wines that we will see in the future. The other really good investment that we have seen from many winemakers is the fact that obviously wine is a monocrop. So we need to actually look at how we can actually do 2 things. One is think about regenerative, and secondly, how to actually move from monocrop to mixed. And what other things can we mix within those corridors in order not to actually have depleted the richness of the wines or of the grapes, but actually create perhaps insect corridors that enhance the